What's up? What's up?
What's up? What's going on?
Well, welcome you all to Mr. B's Trucking Institute, where we find solutions. We ain't about them excuses. And we want all them drivers to make sure y'all keep it in the road. We got our Keep It in the Road podcast that's on Spotify with Anchor. I'm your driver today, Mr. B. Hold on, let me hop out this driver's seat. I take that back. All right, I'm the co-driver today.
Yes, go.
And we got DC Wolf. He driving this thing today. What's going on, Wolf?
Oh, we're gonna be cruising at an altitude about 70 miles an hour. We're going down 85 southbound, getting down, man. We ready to go.
All right, we about to drop that thing in that big hole. We dropping it in 10. All right, let me holler at Foodie Fancy and I'm gonna see who we got on the show today. All right, Foodie Fancy, let's get her in here.
What's going on, drivers?
What's up?
Hey, you going 70 miles per hour. You need to be somewhere slowing your butt down. We ain't trying to get no tickets getting pulled over.
We got to get these loads where they got to get.
Hey,
that's what we do.
Safety first. Woo,
yes.
Safety first.
Yeah.
Safety first.
Safety first. I like that.
Hey, listen, guys, before I even bring on who we got in the sleeping berth today, I was reading this article. You are going to flip. Okay, so we have this gentleman in Elkhart, Indiana, right? He was going in the McDonald's drive-thru to get a sausage McMuffin. So, he placed his order, got up there, paid what he needed to pay. They handed him his bag, and he proceeded to drive off. But when he drove off, he realized that the sandwich wasn't in the bag. Do y'all want to know what was in the bag?
I'm scared to ask.
Dude, what was in the bag was $5,000.
What?
Yes,
I would have dropped that thing in Tim's gift.
Man. So what it was, they had, I guess, was going to make a drop and had put it in a McDonald's bag, and whoever was giving the food made a mistake and handed him the cash bag, opposed to giving him his breakfast sandwich. But this good Samaritan, he went back to McDonald's and gave them back the money. I don't even want to ask him how to do it.
Wow. Yeah, he's a good Samaritan. He's
good Samaritan. Good Samaritan. Josiah
That's what we're
Vargas. And so anyway, so we have a Instagram page, Dookie Doo Boy. I don't even want to know what that's about, but if y'all want to check him out and say good job, you did the right thing. So it don't pay to steal, guys. It don't pay to steal.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he did the right thing.
He did the right thing. I would have done that too. As a matter of fact, I probably would have gave him extra.
What? Yeah, you're a real Christian.
I'm a real Christian. But this is the thing, though, guys. Guess what? He got free McDonald's for a month. Woo!
What? Wow.
$5,000. He should have got free McDonald's for a year.
Hey, for real, man. Come on, man.
I don't know, drive. I might have split that thing and threw it in filth.
I'm Foodie Fancy. We're glad to have you guys joining us tonight in the sleeping berth. We have James went all the way from Green Bay, Wisconsin, but now he reside in Atlanta area, and he works with a company called DPF Guys. So I am not going to belabor bringing him onto the show. You guys do what you need to do, and while you're doing it, I need you to keep it in the road.
Keep it in the road.
Thank you.
All right, see you later.
Appreciate you. All right. Hey. What's going on, James?
What's going on, James?
Greetings from Forest Park. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on tonight.
All right.
Great, man. Good to have you, man.
So let me start off. Before we jump into the DPF, you from Green Bay?
Actually from Appleton, about 30 minutes from Green Bay, but you can see the lights of Lambeau Field from my backyard.
That's where I was going. What you think about Mr. Brett Favre? You think he not Brett Favre? I'm sorry.
A-Rod.
I tell you my age. I went way back. What you think about Aaron? They gonna keep Aaron or they letting him go? What's going on?
I don't know. He's starting to sound more like a Dallas Cowboy the older he gets. I don't know how much.
Whoa, wait a minute now, James. You stepping on feet, James. You stepping on. Just let you know. You stepping on feet, James. I'm already still sore from when he put us out the playoffs a couple years back. So, you know what I'm saying?
It's really hard to say. Yes, you come from this, this little. My dog's in here. Get out of here. Green Bay, small town, 100,000 people or so, big NFL team, and it always seems like when the leader of the team and a quarterback starts to kind of lose his humility a little bit, that's when it's time for him to go. I mean, he had a great run. So I just wonder what's going to happen to the dynasty when he does go. That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they'll draft a quarterback this year, or do they have somebody in the pipeline?
I honestly don't know. It'll be, people were, so in love with Brett Favre, and it was really a big deal when he left, but then, Aaron Rodgers really, filled that role so beautifully. I don't know. It might be one of those things where the Packers might be a little sleepy for a few seasons and see where the next. I mean, there's more people on the team than just a quarterback, but the last couple have really been legends.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah,
stuff.
they have had a good run, man. Yeah, we want to get into this interview, man, and just start it off. This is, man, a greatly anticipated interview for me because being a driver and owning my own truck, man, this issue of DEF, DPF, the system, man, so many people need to hear, your voice on this. So start out, how did you get into the DPF industry? How did you get into the industry? What brought you in?
It's interesting. People will say, well, how long you've been in Atlanta? How long you've been cleaning? I had the business in Atlanta. I'm like, since, October of 2019. And they'll say, well, how long you've been in the industry? I'm like, well, since about October of 2019. And which really isn't, too far from the truth. My background is really, software company, boutique hotel, martini bar, steakhouse. I mean, everything but the diesel industry. But I had a marketing company in Wisconsin. I was working with one of my clients who was a kind of a manufacturing operations consultant. And he's like, I've got this idea. And I think Atlanta would be a good market for it. And they said, we've got, I'm the operations guy, I'm the manufacturing guy, facilities guy, kind of getting shit done type of guy. We already had he had a neighbor of his, a friend of his that was the money guy, the money man, the CFO. And they said, we just, we need somebody who can be kind of in charge of sales and marketing and really get this business up and running. And I thought, man, I like bad ideas. Let's give it a shot. And so I threw some cash into the, as one of the investors and became an equal partner with the other two guys. And I said, well, you two men have, young children. My daughters are 26, 28 years old. I've got some grandkids. They're on their own. They're married, doing their own thing. And I'm like, well, I can go to Atlanta for a month or two and get this business up and running. Now it's been 4 years later and look where I'm at. So, I mean, the thing is, there was, definitely, training involved and that sort of stuff. But a lot of it is just, just figure it out, solve the problems. And, realistically, there are some things we do that's, a little bit technical. But like anything, a lot of it's just like, well, is this dirty? What do we need to do to make it clean? And, and I think I owe a lot to, as strange as this might sound, I owe a lot to the hotel industry because, the whole thing is when you have a hotel, someone just wants a good night's sleep. Someone just needs to have good Wi-Fi because their job depends on getting a presentation done, whatever it is. And so I just assume that every industry took care of their customer like that, right? And so I just didn't, I thought, why do it any differently? I mean, it's not that hard, right? And from the very beginning, from our first customer that talked about, this, my truck's been at the dealership for 6 weeks and I'm driving Uber to make ends meet and that sort of stuff. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, we should be able to get this done, this thing done in a day or two. Because, if you're not making money, if your truck's not moving, you're not making money. And that's my only job is to get you back on the road. So, I think it's just really that just get it done and get them back rolling again. That's the biggest, that's been the biggest thing. And, every day I learn something new, and, trucks do weird things. And so, I've been blessed by having, many different people come for us for help, and every one of them I learned something new, and here we are. And that's, that's what, like I said, well, that's something I've never done before. Let's give it a try. And it worked.
And now I think you already answered this question. How long you've been in business again now? Was it 4 years or more?
Well, so October of 2019 is when we officially opened.
Okay.
I think we probably were, setting the shop up and stuff sometime, in the summer, but really October of 2019 is when we opened. And I don't know if you remember, there was a little bit of a pandemic that happened. So that was, so you start a new business in October of 2019, and all of a sudden, February, March of 2020, the world comes to a halt. But and to me, that was, I think that was actually a blessing, because while the trucking industry still continued on, it gave me the time and space I needed to really, think about how to do this right, and how to make it repeatable, and how to make it, make the quality where it needs to be.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I'm just glad I'm glad I didn't open up a banquet hall at October 2019.
Oh man, yeah. Let's get our hands dirty, man. Let's get our hands dirty. Now, James, tell us, what is the process of a clean? If I give you my tank, and let me say again, now I understand the customer service, because when I had mine clean, man, you came and got it, you cleaned it, brought it back. I mean, 5-star service. I now I understand your background. What is the process when I give you my filter? What is the process of the clean? How does that work?
Well, I think it might be even better to say what's the process that gets it dirty, and then talk about how we fix that. So when you if diesel burned completely 100% efficiently, nothing would come out except for a little bit of CO2 and water. I mean, diesel is an incredible molecule, and you get a lot of energy out of it, but it doesn't burn perfectly, because maybe your truck is idling, or maybe it's you're not always running at 80 miles per hour on a flat road, right? You still have to drive it like a normal human being, so it's not 100% efficient. And so so soot is produced when the diesel doesn't burn perfectly, and it never burns perfectly, so it'll produce a little bit of soot. And then also, you may not realize this, but motor oil contains metals, copper and nickel and things like that act like adds lubricity to the oil. It's kind of like little ball bearings, and every time that your diesel burns, a little bit of oil burns with it, and with that, the metal will actually burn, and that turns into an ash. So what comes out of your exhaust, from a standpoint of physical dirt that you can see, is soot and ash, and the ash comes from the motor oil, and the soot comes from unburned diesel. I'll talk about another part of this, which is the NOx, which is handled by the DEF. It's a separate part of the system, but really the cleaning comes from the soot and the ash. Soot from the diesel, ash from the motor oil, and that just whistles down your exhaust and gets caught in your DPF filter, which is just like a coffee filter. Think about the stuff that comes off your engine, kind of like coffee grounds. But unlike a coffee filter that gets filled up and you throw it away, the truck kind of cleans itself initially, and that's the regen process and a regeneration. And really, all that is, it's like kind of like cleaning your oven, where the engine runs in a specific way, and it'll happen passively sometimes when you're driving. There's pressure sensors in the system that says, I'm breathing a little harder than I should. There's probably some soot and some soot buildup. Let's go into a regen. You might see your light come on the dashboard. You may notice your engine runs a little bit differently. And what it's doing is it's going to get the engine hotter, and we'll add just a couple of squirts of unburned diesel fuel into the exhaust. That'll either, on some trucks, it's actually like a little perfume nozzle right after the turbo, shoots a little bit in. Sometimes it comes into the cylinders, but it's unburned diesel fuel. It's called hydrocarbon. And then that goes through the first part of your DPF system, which is actually the DOC. And that's a catalyst And all that does is does a chemical reaction very, very quickly that will add 300, 400, 500 degrees worth of temperature to your exhaust. And that gets the DPF hot enough so that that soot that has built up will then burn into two things. One of them will be, some of it's unburned diesel, so it'll burn this into a gas and pass down your exhaust. Other parts will turn into ash. And so you take, again, it's like the briquettes in your Weber grill. You burn those things down, they shrink down, and they may be, a third or a quarter of what they were before, but there's still the ash there. And so the regen takes the soot, burns into ash, makes more room for more soot, more ash, more soot, more ash. And that can go on depending upon your truck and how it's driven, 200, 300, 400,000. I mean, I've just had a guy message me, had a Volvo that had 900,000 miles and he's never cleaned his DPF. So that's how it gets dirty. Does that all make sense?
Okay.
Like that's really, that's what happens. Whether your truck is big or small, or you got a forklift or whatever, all because it does the same thing. But eventually, I did a TikTok video about this because people go, well, I'll just bring it to the mechanic and do a forced regen and that'll fix it. Well, it's very much like when you've got the kitchen garbage can and your wife tells you to empty it and you just go and stick your foot in it and squish it down. And give yourself, more space for garbage. So technically, so that's what a regen really does. It just kind of, it makes more room for more garbage, but eventually it'll fill up and you got to take that thing out. And so and so what we do is basically reverse the process of when it got dirty. So we're going to take that. We want to do the DOC and the DPF. Now the DOC, we call it a DOC filter, which is incorrect. But it's just, it's just because it's things we clean, because that soot flows right through the DOC. The DOC itself is kind of like a bundle of straws. It doesn't really catch anything, but it does build crap up on it. And the reason that we recommend cleaning both is because you really only need to clean the DPF in theory. But if you don't clean the DOC, again, using the garbage can analogy, it'd be like emptying out your kitchen garbage can, but putting the dirty bag back in. So the DOC will have soot that's built up on it. When you get the DPF flowing really well, all that soot jumps back in the DPF and simply shortens. It will require you to get it clean sooner. So you want to get everything clean.
Okay.
And then, I can go through the process incredibly quickly. There's a testing process where we want to check to see how it's flowing and how much it weighs. And then we go through a specific, and we're always chasing everything out back the way it came, because we want to, if it comes in, the dirty side out the clean side, we want to go back and blow it back out. So we're going to use, compressed air and vacuum initially, and we're going to be chasing that thing out. You watch it on an infrared camera so we can see everything coming out till nothing else comes out. And that first step of our process is almost identical to how other people clean a DPF. But what we found is that first step will get, say 70% of the crap out of your DPF, which is good enough usually to put it back on the truck and you can go down the road, but you still left 30% of it behind, which means you'll have to get it clean that much sooner and so on and so forth. And also what you leave behind will bake and turn into like almost a concrete and won't come out, and that will cause you to have to replace your DPF eventually. But then we go through an aqueous flush, which is a high volume of water at a medium air pressure, and that ultimately hammers everything out. There's more air. And then last but not least, it goes into a regen process in our shop where we put it into a big oven and ramp it up to regen temperature, which is 1112 degrees Fahrenheit. Hold it there for 8 hours, slowly ramp it back down. And anything that's hiding in there will just get burnt out. And then we put it back through an air blast process to get any little pieces that came out, completely out. And then we go into the testing process again to make sure it flows like a new filter. And it goes back on the truck the next day. So that's how it gets dirty, and that's how it gets clean.
Now, James, let me ask you this. What would you say what is one of the biggest misconceptions that drivers have about this DPF? Something that you hear drivers say, or their perspective that's maybe a bit off a bit. Is there any misconceptions that you can think of?
I would say there's no, there's not real big ones other than, anytime something doesn't seem right, they'll bring it to a mechanic, bring it to TA Petro and do a forced regen. And, the TA Petro forced regen is really designed where, you're 200 miles away from home and, your truck is starting to cause trouble. It's really designed to get you someplace where you could take care of it right away. But these people will say, well, I've just been, every 300 miles for the last 2 years, I just stop at a TA Petro and get a forced regen. You're really fixing the symptom and not the problem. And you ultimately, one of the times you go to the TA to get it done, it simply won't be successful, and your truck's now stuck at TA, and it's going to be at the worst possible time. And I think people, there's a lot of moving parts in the after treatment. But when you actually understand it, it's pretty simple. And if you can go in your head and say, hey, when's the last time I got this filter cleaned? Oh, it was 400,000 miles ago. Might be not a bad idea to get it taken care of. It's just a maintenance, it's really just a maintenance thing. And people just, I think the biggest misconception is that a forced regen is actually fixing the problem when it's really just fixing a symptom.
Yeah, this is awesome information, man. Just awesome information. Going back to the maintenance thing, how often should you get it maintenance? Now, I just have DPF. I don't do DEF fluid in my system. A friend of mine actually just not too long ago went to you guys, sent it to you guys. He has DEF and the filters, and he just got a full maintenance job from you guys. So how often should you get this system maintained? Because I think a lot of misconception is, okay, DPF is just ruining trucking, and I think it's like maybe some miseducation, because honestly, I was driving my truck and my DPF light came on and was like replaced the filter. I had no education on it whatsoever. So I was just starting at ground zero. So if you can just give some like insight on these systems, how often should they be maintained, and what does that entail?
So I always tell people, so a lot of the processes and intervals that we have come from one of our customers that has a big national fleet with a couple 100,000 trucks. And you understand with, the maintenance issues you can have with 1 or 2 trucks, just imagine multiplying that 100,000 times. And so their engineering worked with Cummins and worked with Detroit, worked with PACCAR, worked with ISX, and said, what process is the best and how often should we do these things? And people will say, well, should I get it done every 100,000 miles? No, there's no harm in getting it done every 100,000 miles. It's just that it's kind of a waste, in my opinion. Again, I guess being that we do this for a living, I'd say do it every 10 miles. But I mean, like, really, you want to do it when you need to do it. So I always tell people, think about it at about 200,000 miles. And by that, it's just like, if you bring your truck in and it's got, 600,000 miles on it, when that thing rolls 800,000, it's not like you've got to like stop everything and drive to Atlanta and get your DPFs clean. But it's like, okay, so basically, every 200,000-300,000 miles, you can get ahead of it and do it preventatively and proactively versus when the truck is derated and you got to pay $3,000 to get it towed and God knows what else. Now that's going to depend on how your truck is used. I mean, your audience is probably going to be the 200,000-300,000 mile range. Then you have, unless you've got a Freightliner or a Western Star with a Detroit engine and a one box, those are, more expensive to clean because there's more parts to replace and there's 2 of everything. Those can generally go, a little longer, like 400,000, 500,000 miles. But, just start paying attention. If the truck is starting to, call for more frequent parked regens and you look like, oh, I got this done about 300,000 miles ago, it's about time. Now, for you, for anybody that's over the road, 200,000-300,000 miles is a good numbers to keep in your mind. And as an aside, people that are owner operators that get their trucks from a fleet, like from Schneider or from, one of the big fleets, they'll often buy the truck with 400,000 miles on it. And, what that means is it's normally a well-maintained truck, but they're sold before they do any of the more major maintenance. And so they'll follow, especially, a place like Schneider will follow the manufacturer's guidance, like just religiously. So if it says clean the DPF at 500,000 miles and they sell that thing at 499,000 miles, I guarantee you that the thing's not been cleaned. And then people will call and they'll kind of freak out like, oh no, I bought this truck and it's a lemon. I said, no, you've got a great truck, great transmission, great body, great engine, well-maintained, good records. You just need to get the DPF clean. You'll be good for another 400,000 or 500,000 miles. It can be a big relief. And it usually, I see a lot of people that call me and say, I've only had the truck for a couple of months. And I said, did you buy it at 400,000? They're like, yep. I'm like, okay, you got it from a fleet. Just get it clean. You'll be good to go. Now, that's for over the road. If anybody's in, watches your videos and they do something like, drive a garbage truck or, a fire truck or something that is used in a much different manner where it's a lot of stop and go and they never get up to highway speed and they spend more time idling than they do doing anything, then you might want to look at that as not so many miles, because the engine hours on a fire truck that has 10,000 miles on it could be substantially more than the engine hours for an over-the-road truck that has 250,000 miles on it. But for you guys, 300,000 miles is I said, I always tell people, think about it at 200,000, and if you get it done at 250 or 300 or 325, you're fine.
I think this might be the last question we have right here. I know it's been great information. I appreciate it, James. But how about, does weather play a part in all of this?
I don't know. It's one of those things where I'll see hot weather is when we will get busier, and I don't know if that's because there's more loads that are hauled at that time, more produce, that sort of stuff. I don't know if it's the industry is different, or if it's because the weather's hot and a driver that would sleep in the truck, would idle it more to stay cool so that they can sleep. But I don't think it would actually have any impact as far as the engine producing, causing more stuff to build up in the DPF. It's potentially how the truck might be utilized in hot weather versus cold.
Okay.
Now let me ask you this: if I think I have a DEF problem, what are some things that maybe if I have a breakdown on the side of the road, what are some things that I might check before I just assume that, okay, I need a forced regen or I need a tow truck? What are some of the smaller things maybe you can check?
Well, I would say that if you haven't been doing the, stop at the TA Petro every 300 miles to do a forced regen, it's your first one.
Yeah.
Having getting a forced regen so you can get someplace where it can get taken care of will be way cheaper than a tow. But you want to look for things. Especially because you want to be careful, because sometimes you can go to the dealership and the first thing they do is say, oh, you need a new DPF, you need a new DOC, and that'll be $8,000 to $20,000, and it'll be 3 months before we get one in. Whatever. There's horror stories on top of horror stories. But make sure that you don't have a small exhaust leak someplace. That can really cause some issues. Just a loose clamp can cause you might have a brand new DPF and it's still not working, and it turns out that you have a $27 clamp that's loose and it's letting exhaust out, causing it not to get too hot. And I think finding a mechanic who's willing to look into it a little bit, because I'll help mechanics all the time. So fire up your diagnostics. Let's look at temperatures, and they're like, "Oh wow, this number doesn't look quite right." I'm like, "Well, that's it's probably just this one thing." And what I found is, when they you're at a dealership, they'll just follow the troubleshooting steps, and they'll say, well, do this, replace the harness, replace the DPF, replace all the sensors, and that, it'll resolve the issue, but it might be just one, $200 part or $80 part or whatever, that actually fixes it when you've spent $10,000 to get all of the pieces. And sometimes you do need to spend, real money, but more often than not, you don't. And if someone knows what to look for, they can really save you some real pain and heartache for that.
Yeah,
I had one. I said it was the last, but I had another one.
Oh, go ahead. No, I'm all yours. Whatever you got, man.
I was just sitting here thinking about, does this work similar to like say for instance, oil change? They say change your oil every 2,000 to 3,000 miles or 3 months, or every 3 months. I was an instructor at a trucking school here in Atlanta, and I know that they're not putting that many miles, but we have some DPF systems on the trucks, some Kenworths. So if you're not running that many miles, like if you're a trucking school or something like that, if you're not doing 200 to 300,000 miles, how often would you get it done then if your miles are really low?
Watch your hours. And I've had differing opinions on this, and I'll tell people, 4,000 engine hours. But if you've got a truck that's, if you've got 3 trucks at the school, these, a lot of times these things are kind of putting around a parking lot and doing, practicing things and backing up and stuff. So they don't really get up, where they can fully, where the engines run like they're designed to. So I would check the hours, and like in the case of the trucking school, because I've heard people comment that it's not 4,000 hours, it's 14,000 hours. I mean, it's so there's a big range in there. But if you're running similar assets, similar trucks for the trucking school, and probably the best thing to do would be, if you do have one that's giving you trouble, pull up the engine hours and see what it is. And it might be 8,000, it might be, whatever it is. And that kind of gives you a measuring stick. But I would say that a trucking school would be much like a fire truck or a bus or a garbage truck. You would do it more on engine hours than you would do it on miles. And I don't think it would take much to figure out how many hours that might be. And again, I tell people 4,000, but then other people say, oh no, it's 10,000. And you'd probably be surprised at how many idle hours and how many running hours those trucks actually get.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, just say for instance, and you hit on this subject about mechanics co-oping with you guys, and I think that's a great idea. You sent the guy, and shout outs to Johnny, man. He came out and looked at my truck. He just listened to it and was like, man, it sounds like your fuel filter's clogged.
Yep.
And the mechanic before him couldn't figure it out. You know what I'm saying? He immediately went to the normal diagnostic. He ended at, you need to just buy a new DPF filter. And I was just like, I just had it replaced though. But Johnny came up, he told me, he said, turn your truck on. He just listened. And he was like, man, it sounds like your fuel filter's clogged. We replaced it and it regenerated. It hadn't had a problem since. But a part of that was, you told me to tell him to contact you and, hey man, tell me what's on the computer and we'll go from there. Is that something you offer, that a mechanic can just call you and, co-op with you guys on what he's having a problem with?
Absolutely. That's and it's just something that I think is the right thing to do, because because I've had that happen again. Like, in theory, it'd be the guy's like, oh, you need a new DPF and DOC. You could come to me and I'd sell you a DOC for $2,500 and a DPF for $2,000. But if that's not the problem, I mean, that's just criminal, right? So, I've had that happen where someone's going to be like, I think I need a new DPF, and I'm like, let me talk to your mechanic. You're like, well, no, you don't. You just have a pressure sensor hose that's cracked, and it'll cost you $60. Because I know, like I said, I feel it's my job to just to keep the trucks rolling, and I had there's a big dealership in Atlanta where so they're kind of not really a competitor. They clean DPFs, but and I remember I helped him get their DPF cleaning machine working again, and he goes, the general manager of the shop goes, "Why are you doing this? We're competitors." And I said, "Well, we're both working for the same customer, and if we don't have working equipment, these trucks aren't rolling." So I feel that if I know something that can help somebody get a truck rolling, and it all comes full circle, you know what I mean? It's so the whole thing is, you got a problem, that's your fuel filter or a dirty air filter or something completely unrelated to me, and I don't make a nickel off of it. It's just the right thing to do, and the deal is, you'll be my customer, or your friend or your neighbor will be my customer at some point, and life is good.
Yeah, everybody I know, man, that I say, man, call James at DPF Guys, man. Anybody asks me about DPF, man, I send them to you guys, man. So
I so much
highly
appreciate
recommend
that.
it.
I so much appreciate that. And we don't, we're not perfect. We make some mistakes, and when we do, we try to make it right. But we really try to do the right thing with every, with any time we help somebody out.
So it sounds like, James, if you went through the McDonald's drive-through and got that $5,000, you would have given it back.
I think I would have given it back, because I just think about, man, what about that person who, that person who handed them the wrong bag or put stuff in the wrong bag? Who knows what they're going through? They might have just gotten maybe their family member found out they had cancer or something, that their mind wasn't in the game, and you gotta, if you can do right, you should.
That's good stuff right there,
man.
That's good stuff right there.
Wow.
Yeah. So Wolf, you got anything else for James?
No, I don't. I mean, yeah, man. Of course, let me say before I ask him this, man. That this interview should get this should go get 1 billion views, man. I mean, just for the information. Honestly, man, the information is. I mean, you can't put a dollar price on the information you've given. So give us your location. Give us your locations, man. How can we reach you on social media? Just give this information so anybody who's got a problem, man, can just reach you at your office, phone number, website, Facebook. Just, man, every platform you have, man. Just let us know how we can get you, man.
Shameless plug time. How much time you got?
Hey, man, I'm like, man, because I mean, think about it. It's like this doctor is on TV talking about this great cure, but you can't reach him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, it's all this good stuff, but where do I go to get it? So.
Well, I tell you what, the phone number was up there. You can text the phone number, which is 404-999-1361. And definitely get a hold of us that way. And look for us on, we're going to be hopefully more busy on YouTube here now that I've got my mini studio set up here, because I've been like, I better make myself look semi good for Mr. B here. But I mean we're in Atlanta right now. We got some other locations on deck and out of state, but Atlanta's our big flagship location. We're right by the airport, not too far from the farmers market in Forest Park, right by Highway 85, easy to get to. But I mean, find us. You basically Google DPF Guys Atlanta. You should be able to find us anywhere. I know people really enjoy watching the TikTok videos. They're kind of short and sweet. They cover real specific stuff. I want to spend some more time on YouTube talking about, more in depth, and do some more collaboration with people that are talking to the industry. But yeah, we're in Atlanta right now, South Atlanta, not far from the airport. And, feel free to look us up, find the phone number, and I'll do whatever I can to help you out. And if it's not something that we do, I'll find somebody who does.
Well, we appreciate you, James. And what I love about this interview with you is your professionalism, your attention to detail, your knowledge, and what overrides all of that makes DPF Guys a good place to get some cooking done and taking care of your system is the integrity and the honesty, because unfortunately it's not a whole lot of that going around. So you have the ingredients for obviously a successful business and a place people can go where they feel safe and that their units will be taken care of. So I appreciate you, and we definitely gonna be sending people your way.
I tell you what, if anybody has any questions about this, they want to leave in the comments. I'll keep an eye on those. If you see anything that comes across, just make sure you get it to me, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. And like I said, if this thing doesn't work out, I can always go back to shaking martinis.
Well, we ask every guest to say this, however you want to say it. Take your time, but we just want you to tell drivers, James, just say, drivers out there, make sure you keep it in the road. However you want to say it, it's on you.
Absolutely. That's what we want to help you keep it in the road and keep it on the road so you can be back making money, be back to your family, take care of the people who matter the most to you.
All right.
All right, man.
All right. Appreciate you, James. We'll be in contact.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right.
You take care.
Thank you, James.
Yeah. All right. All right. Wolf, that was some good stuff right there. What you think?
Awesome, man. Awesome. Just a great interview, man. Great information, man. I'm telling you, I've been in the seat, man. I've been in the seat with my truck down, man, and not knowing what to do and just not having a clue about this DPF stuff, man. So he brought a lot of clarity, man. And to the drivers out there, man, if you have any questions, man, give him a call, man. Give him a call, man. He sent mechanics to you and everything. So.
All right. All right. So y'all make sure y'all write that number down, DPF Guys. We got it right there, 404-999-1361. Throw that address up there, Wolf. I think we got his address.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
636 Cordell Drive, Suite B, Atlanta, GA, the ATL 30349. We want to appreciate y'all. Mm-hmm. We want you to hit that subscribe button. All right.
Yes, sir.
And we want to thank y'all for hanging out with us right here on Mr. B's Trucking Institute, where we find solutions, not excuses.
Not excuses.
And we keep it in a road. And we're going to keep some Foodie Fancy going with her business is taking off. We got Wolf and his music business is taking off. And Mr. B Trucking Institute, we are diversifying and we are touching the roads. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
Until next time, what they need to do, Wolf?
Keep it in the road.
Y'all keep it in the road.
Give me my theme music on the way out.